Jezebel. The name itself crackles with power, a whisper of darkness, a promise of passion. She arrived in Israel, a princess of Tyre, a land of vibrant gods and ancient rituals. But she was destined to become so much more, a queen, a legend, a cautionary tale. Ahab, king of Israel, was captivated. He made Jezebel his queen. She brought with her the worship of her gods, Baal and Asherah. These deities represented fertility, abundance, and the raw power of nature. Jezebel sought to establish their presence alongside Yahweh, the God of Israel. This was a time of unrest. Drought gripped the land, fueling tensions between the old ways and the new. Jezebel, with her unwavering belief in her gods and her own strength, refused to back down. Her influence spread, captivating some, alarming others. The stage was set for a clash of titans. Jezebel was a queen who knew what she wanted. She surrounded herself with priests and prophets of Baal and Asherah. Temples rose, sacrifices were made, and the old ways of Israel seemed to tremble before the allure of these foreign gods. Jezebel saw it as a restoration of balance, a return to the earth's true power. Many Israelites, however, saw it as blasphemy. They clung to the worship of Yahweh, the God who had delivered them from slavery and promised them a land flowing with milk and honey. They saw the drought as Yahweh's punishment for their straying. Among them rose a powerful figure, a prophet who would become Jezebel's greatest adversary, Elijah. Elijah was a man of fire and fury. He railed against the worship of Baal, proclaiming Yahweh as the one true God. He challenged Jezebel's priests to a contest, a showdown on Mount Carmel to prove whose God held true power over the heavens. The stage was set for a confrontation that would shake the very foundations of Israel. Mount Carmel loomed, a silent witness to the brewing storm. On one side, Elijah, the solitary prophet of Yahweh, armed with faith and righteous anger. On the other, the prophets of Baal, numerous and confident under Jezebel's patronage. The challenge was simple. Each side would build an altar and call upon their God to send fire from heaven. All day the prophets of Baal danced and chanted, their voices rising in a desperate plea. They cut themselves, their blood a crimson offering. But the heavens remained silent. No fire fell. Elijah mocked them, his words sharp as shards of glass. He built his own altar, a simple structure dedicated to Yahweh. As the sun began to set, Elijah called upon Yahweh, and the heavens responded. Fire blazed down from the sky, consuming the sacrifice, the altar, even the stones around it. The people fell to their knees, awestruck. Elijah had triumphed, but Jezebel's fury was about to be unleashed. Jezebel was not a woman to be crossed. When news reached her of Elijah's victory and the slaughter of her priests, her rage was terrible to behold. She swore vengeance against Elijah, vowing to make him pay for defying her. But her ruthlessness extended beyond her religious zeal. Ahab, her husband, desired a vineyard belonging to a man named Naboth. Naboth refused to sell, claiming it was his inheritance from his fathers. Ahab sulked, but Jezebel saw an opportunity to assert her power and crush any dissent. She orchestrated false accusations against Naboth, claiming he had blasphemed both God and the king. Naboth was dragged before the elders, condemned on false testimony, and stoned to death. His vineyard, soaked in innocent blood, became a chilling testament to Jezebel's willingness to use any means to achieve her desires. Her actions would not go unpunished. The seeds of her own destruction were sown in that vineyard. Years passed, but the memory of Jezebel's cruelty lingered. The people of Israel, even those who once admired her strength, began to whisper of her tyranny. The drought continued, fueling resentment towards the queen and her foreign gods. Among the king's own captains, a storm was brewing. Jehu, a ruthless and ambitious commander, saw an opportunity. He conspired with others who chafed under Jezebel's rule. They yearned for a return to the old ways, for a king who would put Yahweh first. Jehu anointed himself king, a direct challenge to Ahab's lineage and Jezebel's power. The rebellion was swift and brutal. Jehu, driven by a potent mix of ambition and religious fervor, cut down all those who stood in his path. He killed Ahab's sons, eliminating any rivals to the throne. Now, only Jezebel remained, a queen facing her final curtain call. News reached Jezebel of Jehu's advance. Her city, Jezreel, braced for a siege. But Jezebel, even in the face of certain defeat, refused to cower. She was a queen to the very end. She adorned herself in her finest robes, painted her eyes with kohl, and stood tall in her palace window. When Jehu entered the city gates, triumphant and blood-stained, she greeted him not with pleas for mercy, but with a queen's scorn. "Is it well, you murderer?" she called down to him. Her words, filled with venom and defiance, were the last words she spoke. Jehu, unmoved by her display, ordered her death. Eunuchs, fearful of his wrath, threw her from the window. Her blood splattered the ground, a final act of defiance against the forces that sought to destroy her. Jezebel, the queen who danced with shadows, had fallen. Jezebel's death marked the end of an era. Her reign, a tumultuous mix of religious upheaval, political intrigue, and ruthless ambition, had left an indelible mark on Israel's history. Jehu, eager to consolidate his power and appease Yahweh, eradicated all traces of Baal and Asherah worship, but erasing Jezebel's memory proved impossible. She became a byword for wickedness, her name synonymous with idolatry and cruelty. The story of Naboth's vineyard, a chilling reminder of her disregard for justice, was passed down through generations. Yet, even in death, Jezebel's story refused to be contained. It resonated with a power that transcended time and place. Hers was a story of ambition, of a woman who defied expectations and challenged the status quo. It was a story that continued to fascinate and provoke, long after the dust had settled on Jezreel. Centuries passed, and Jezebel's image remained. She became a powerful symbol, a warning against the dangers of unchecked power and the seductive allure of forbidden gods. Her story was told and retold, each retelling adding new layers of interpretation. In art and literature, she was depicted as a temptress, a seductress, a woman who lured men to their doom. Her name became associated with everything considered dangerous and subversive in a woman's strength, ambition, sexuality, a willingness to defy societal norms. But there were other interpretations, whispers of admiration for her courage and her unwavering commitment to her beliefs. Jezebel, the outsider queen who dared to challenge the established order, resonated with those who felt marginalized, those who fought for their own truths in the face of overwhelming opposition. Today, we can look back at Jezebel's story with fresh eyes. We can move beyond the simplistic labels of good and evil that have been imposed upon her. We can see her as a complex figure, a product of her time and culture, a woman who navigated a world dominated by men. Was she a ruthless tyrant, or a visionary leader who fought for her beliefs? Was she a pawn in a larger power struggle between competing religions, or a master manipulator who used her influence to achieve her own ends? The answers are likely a blend of all these things. Jezebel's story, like all human stories, is messy and complicated. It defies easy categorization, and it is precisely this complexity, this refusal to fit neatly into predefined boxes, that continues to fascinate and challenge us today. Jezebel, the queen who danced with shadows, still has much to teach us about power, faith, and the enduring human struggle for agency and identity.